I've never been a fan of horror or Halloween in general. Ever since I saw my first horror movie, I was convinced anything paranormal was some sort of fabrication. My friends Gideon and Willow both think ghosts must exist in some way and have continually tried to find them, but I still consider myself to be a skeptic. I've never heard a bump in the night, a ghostly wail, or seen an upside down crucifix spinning by itself. However, something felt wrong tonight. Maybe it was the wind or just an irrational fear. As we departed from Willow's home and got on the bus, my irritation was tight. Their constant rambling made me question why I was ever friends with them in the first place. It was most likely because no one else had ever tried to be my friend. Honestly, their mania over paranormal things confuses me. Why would you believe something that was never based on facts or any sort of other proven citation? Most ghost stories are either fictional ramblings of a mental patient or just creepy coincidences. Even when I asked them what made them believe in ghosts, they listed exactly those two things, but they were mostly from personal experience. Gideon said that the reason he believes in ghosts is because every single time he slept, there was some figure of a woman hovering above him. The woman was apparently his grandmother, who had passed away the month before it happened. Willow claims to have had a paranormal event when she was at a cemetery, reading a book under a willow tree. Kind of ironic. She apparently kept hearing weird noises throughout the entire graveyard. It took her about 5 seconds before she picked up her book and left the area. In my opinion, both could easily be explained. Gideon was young when the death of her happened, so it could have just been a child having trauma and coping with it in a weird way. He probably misremembers. For Willow, perhaps the sound carried differently in the cemetery, making things seem louder than they actually were. These stories were so easily explainable that I found it hard to believe that they could possibly be telling the truth. The look of conviction on their faces does sometimes cause me to pull back on my claims, but I'll have to see it with my own two eyes. We arrived at the Blockbuster, the bright neon light shining in the night. And as they went around back looking for a ghost or some other sort of phenomenon, I went inside the store to find a movie. The brown carpet gave off a faint dusty scent as I browsed the aisles. Eventually, though, while picking out tapes from the wall, I tripped over something odd. When I looked down, I saw what I stepped on. It was a deck of Uno cards, innocent and unassuming. I picked up the cards, innocently playing them around in my hands. Who the heck left a pack of Uno cards down here? But that didn't matter right now. I rented a movie and walked out the store afterwards. As I sat outside the building, the cool air rushing against my face, I shuffled through the cards. It was a normal deck. It had some black scuffs, but that was probably just ink misprints. After shuffling them around, I got startled by a pack of mourning doves. Startled, of course, I dropped the cards onto the pavement, and I quickly knelt down to grab them and put them back into the deck. They were really warm to the touch now, which confused me. I thought they'd be cold after being on the ground. Honestly, after these two weird coincidences, I thought about just throwing them in the garbage, not risking anything weird. But I decided to keep them simply out of curiosity and to prove that nothing supernatural was actually happening. I was bored while waiting for Gideon and Willow, but they eventually arrived with the look on their faces a masterclass of disappointment. Apparently, they did not find a single thing related to the supernatural, leaving them with a sense of crushing dissatisfaction. Now, I'd normally be happy to see them off the thrill of finding a ghost, but seeing them like this made me somber. We got back on the bus driving back to Willow's home. When we got back, Gideon noticed the cards. "How did you end up with those?" "On the floor at a Blockbuster," I replied. "Maybe we could play a round or two." The game went as you normally expect. Yelling, crying, arguing, and silence. Midway through, however, something happened. I drew a green and put down a blue. We laughed it off. I thought I was seeing things until it kept happening. The cards kept switching. Suddenly, dark, tar-like liquid was pouring out from their sides. We didn't want to summon Satan right now, so we threw them out and then burned the trash in a bonfire outside. The crackling was pleasant sounding, until the bag started screaming like 1,000 lost souls. Or maybe it was just a plastic crackling. Willow screamed and Gideon ran away. Honestly, I respect the retreat, but I didn't react myself. The screaming stopped after a while, and all that was left to do was to watch the smoke rise. I either go surreal or I'm having the longest hallucination. At least that's what I thought. The sleepover went pretty well afterwards. I guess I forgot to tell you about this back at the beginning, but we were having a sleepover. Regardless of that, I was sleeping on the floor because Willow had her own bed and Gideon took dibs on the couch. As I lay there, I couldn't help but smell the scent of tar. Normally, I'd assume that it was construction work, but I didn't see any construction work over here today. Groggily, I opened my eyes and stepped downstairs, and oh my god, I could not believe what my two eyes were sending to my brain. The Uno cards were sitting right there, on the table. There was no ominous lighting, no weird smoke, nothing out of the ordinary. They were just sitting there. I grabbed the garbage bag and was about to throw them inside when it suddenly started spinning. Panicking, I immediately bagged it. Unfortunately, a card fell out. The number 9. I didn't want to find out what it meant, so I threw the bag out the window and then stood for an uncomfortably long time, staring at the dropped card. I turned on all the lights and then locked the door to the room we were all sleeping in. I couldn't catch any shut-eye due to the nagging fear. I watched the sunrise since I stayed up the entire night, and we opened the door. The room was covered in tar, scratches, and all sorts of... Ew. Willow nearly passed out. Gideon saw the tar footmarks on the floor and tracked it. They led outside the door and to the bag that I threw out the window the night before. Apparently, whatever had tried to get into our house was from the cards. To this day, I still have no idea what happened, and like I told myself, if it's unexplainable, I'll believe in ghosts. Well, I guess I believe in them now.